Welcome to the John and Heidi Show podcast, brought to you by DirecTV, 1-800-259-7646. Also brought to you by RVWheelator.com. If you're buying an RV or selling an RV, check out RVWheelator.com and the Dollar Shave Club. Here's John and Heidi.
Thanks for tuning in on a Wednesday. Hey, baby, how's it going over there?
Hey, super, how are you?
Super duper. I've got a fun story here about Ozzy Osbourne.
Okay.
He loves a British cereal so much that every month he has a case of it shipped to his home in L.A. It's called Sugar Puffs. Don't they have that here, too?
Yeah.
Or
yeah.
These must be different Sugar Puffs.
I don't know.
Can't get enough of Super Golden Crisp? That's something different. What's a Sugar Puff? I don't know.
Maybe it is
I think I have a Sugar Golden Crisps and or whatever that one's called, Super Golden Crisps and Corn Pops mixed up in my head.
You must.
Maybe this is something different.
I don't know.
It must be
Sounds
good.
like it's the same thing to me.
He gets a case.
A case. How much does he pay for it?
I don't know. He gets a case delivered to his home in L.A. every month.
Well, then maybe it's the same thing as because he probably can't just run down to the grocery store.
What do you mean?
Who are we talking about again?
Ozzy Osbourne.
Yeah, he can't just go to the grocery store.
No.
He'll get mobbed, so he has to have stuff delivered.
But
he must really like that kind of cereal, and it's not odd that he has it delivered. It's not like it's special order.
I think it is from Britain. It says right on there, a special British cereal. What are you doing over there? Would you quit playing Candy Crush and get your head in the game? All right, I'm going to change something else here. We're going to change the subject. You get a chance to redeem yourself. Hey, look into my eyes.
Okay, what?
What are you doing?
I'm looking at something.
Quit looking at that.
Okay, what?
What's the number one item that gives women buyers remorse? Women buyers remorse. I think I said it wrong the first time.
Gives women buyers remorse.
Number one item. The women buy that they later say, I wish I would have never bought those. Ooh, I kind of gave you a hint. I said those. A pair of...
Well, you say shoes.
No.
What?
Leather pants.
Well...
46% of the
Who buys leather pants?
46% of the 2,000 women said that they never wore leather pants that they purchased because they were afraid it made them look tacky and that they were trying too hard. So they apparently had 2,000 women buy them, and 46% of them said, yeah, I never did wear
them. I don't
know
who buys leather pants.
Well, I do, but I never wear them because I'm afraid I'll look tacky.
Well...
Got a great show in store. We've got a guest later in the program. A lot of fun stuff. Stick around. It's all on the way on a Wednesday edition of the John and Heidi Show.
This portion of the program is brought to you by RVWheelator.com. If you're selling an RV, check out RVWheelator.com. They only get paid if they help you sell your RV. If you're buying an RV, you can find great deals at RVWheelator.com. Now, back to the John and Heidi Show podcast.
According to a new survey, bullies are taking full advantage of the latest technology, Heidi.
The internet?
16% of young people say they've received a bullying message through their mobile phone or computer. That's too bad.
That is too bad. And actually, it's creating a huge problem because people are able to do it now anonymously.
Yeah.
Where, at least in school, when we were kids, they had to have the guts to come up to you and do it to your face.
Yeah.
And now they don't have to.
Here's the thing, kids. Don't do it. Don't pick on each other. Love each other. You're only kids once. Get over that stuff and just get along with each other.
Kids are kids, though.
It
was the same way when we were young. It's just now that it's... I think
technology.
now it is way worse for kids than it was when we were young.
Well, let's change the subject and talk about this. A 31-year-old woman in China suffered kidney failure after squatting 700 times. She was doing exercises, 700 squats, kidneys went out. Boom.
Not because of squats.
Yeah, 700 squats, and she had kidney failure.
Really?
Yeah. Kidney failure, so quit squatting out there. That's why I don't go to the gym right there. That is why.
Yeah.
And I'm too lazy to go to the gym. All right. We've got some fun stuff coming up. Going to talk about customer service. That is on the way.
This portion of the program is brought to you by Dollar Shave Club. You can get razors sent to your door each month for just $1 plus a couple of bucks shipping. It's an amazing deal. Log on to dollarshaveclub.com/radio to learn more. That's dollarshaveclub.com/radio. Now, back to the John and Heidi Show podcast.
Good customer service. That is so important to me.
It is.
It is.
It's important to everybody, really.
But it's harder and harder to find good customer service.
It is.
Just ask Neil Stoley. This London man just noticed a pipe had burst in his garden recently, so he called the water company. Unable to get a real person on the phone, he did what he was told to do, followed the voicemail. He hung up. Somebody will be with you shortly. 4 hours and 40 minutes later, a human finally answered the phone. By that time, 5,000 gallons of water had filled his yard and flooded his home.
Oh, my goodness.
So he called in, and it says, hang on, don't hang up, we'll be right with you. So he's hanging on, almost 5 hours.
Oh, my gosh.
That's too bad. I almost wonder if he should have hung up and dialed 911. So
yeah,
they could have.
They probably would have gotten him a response.
Yeah,
when it's something like that,
that's a major deal.
They better not try to charge him for that.
They probably will. 5,000 gallons of water. That's no good.
Gosh.
All right. Thank you so much for listening on a Wednesday. Coming up, we're going to talk about a dude that got pulled over. Guess how fast he was going?
How fast?
Just take a guess.
110.
You were off by 107. He was going 3. Yes, 3. We'll tell you all about that on the way. Thanks for listening to the John and Heidi Show.
This is John Stossel. Anything that makes it harder for you to speak limits your life. So if you or someone you know stutters, you can call the Stuttering Foundation for help. 800-992-9392.
You're listening to the John and Heidi Show podcast.
This is your brain, and this is your brain on drugs. 3 miles an hour, Heidi. Dude was driving 3 miles an hour. In the Thompson Township in Ohio, a drunken man was cruising down the road.
Okay.
And
I was going to say, is it illegal to go only 3 miles an hour? But I suppose
he was trying to run down a couple of law enforcement officers.
Oh.
He was driving a 10-ton bulldozer. I forgot to mention that. William Armstrong refused to stop. He was driving his Caterpillar excavator, and it rumbled towards 2 law enforcement vehicles. Officers eventually persuaded him to stop the vehicle. They gave him a breathalyzer test. His blood alcohol level was .244.
Whoa.
More than 3 times the legal limit of .08.
Yikes.
So, yeah.
Yeah, he's going to be in trouble. He'll lose his bulldozing license for a while.
I don't know if you need a special license for bulldozing, but if you do, he probably won't
He
have it
ain't
for
got
much
it
longer.
anymore.
Is bulldozing the right term for that?
Bulldozing, I think it is.
I think so,
I think
too.
that sounds right.
And if it's not, it should be.
It is now.
All right. We've got your moment of duh coming up here. Another story about a water bill. So 2 water bill stories in one day. How can that be?
It's a Water Wednesday.
Apparently, and it's on the way.
This portion of the program is brought to you by RVRealtor.com. If you're selling an RV, check out RVRealtor.com. They only get paid if they help you sell your RV. If you're buying an RV, you can find great deals at RVRealtor.com. Now, back to the John and Heidi Show podcast.
Earlier today, we talked about a guy who had a bit of a water leak. 5,000 gallons of water filled his yard.
Yes.
Remember that? Well, a trip to pay the water bill turned into a terrible moment of duh for a young lady here. Her mother went in to pay for a water bill. 15-year-old Alexandria Moore of Lithonia, Georgia. Probably didn't say that right, did I?
I don't know. I've never heard of it.
Lithonia? Anyway, they decided that she was going to move the car. She moved it onto the curb, sideswiping another vehicle, slamming into a Lexus, which slammed into another car, which apparently
Who's
wanted...
Alexis?
A Lexus car. Would you quit? Apparently wanting to rewind her experience, she put it into reverse and then scraped into a concrete pole, backed into an SUV. That also hit another car. 2 of the 6 cars needed to be towed away. She was charged with reckless driving. She's only 15.
Yikes.
Yeah. She was just going to move Mom's car
That
while
makes
Mom was
for a
paying the
bad
water
day.
bill. She's in there paying the water bill. I just want to move the car. It's not much. Come on, Mom. Why don't you ever let me drive? This, right here. This is why. All right, we've got your scoop of the day, and that is on the way. Thank you so much for listening to the John and Heidi Show.
This portion of the program is brought to you by Dollar Shave Club. You can get razors sent to your door each month for just $1, plus a couple of bucks shipping. It's an amazing deal. Log on to dollarshaveclub.com/radio to learn more. That's dollarshaveclub.com/radio. Now, back to the John and Heidi Show podcast.
Time now for the scoop of the day, brought to you by the Dollar Shave Club. You can go to dollarshaveclub.com/radio to get all the details. Right now, your scoop of the day. Security cameras at a Florida shopping mall caught a pair of suspects. They were shoplifter suspects recently. They're walking out of a store with $1,478 in stolen goods. One of the women's shirts had the words, "Won't be caught," printed in block letters on the front. At last report, they haven't been caught. So apparently she was right. The decade-long marriage of Ben Affleck and Jennifer Garner is reportedly on the rocks. OK Magazine and the National Enquirer, both of which are, very credible
Top-notch,
sources,
credible
have
sources.
reported that the pair is headed toward a divorce. somewhere in the neighborhood of $150 million.
Ooh.
If we ever had a divorce, which I would never want, but ours would not be a $150 million divorce. It'd be more like a negative...
Yeah, we'd be fighting over who gets the debt.
Negative $12,000 divorce.
Yeah, it would be.
No, you get the debt. No, you get the debt.
Speaking of tabloids,
Yeah.
did you see how hot Bruce Jenner is?
I did.
Holy
Only because you
cow.
made me look at him. You're like, check this out.
It's like, look at him, her.
Look at him, her. That's exactly what you said, too.
Yeah.
All right. Federal prosecutors have charged former Illinois Republican House Speaker Dennis Hastert with illegally structuring cash withdrawals from bank accounts to conceal payments to someone he committed prior misconduct against and lying to the FBI about it. So he's in trouble for all of that, whatever that meant that I just read. Did you follow any of that? I wasn't really paying attention, and I was the one reading it. All right. Although vitamin D boosts the immune system, taking large doses of the nutrient doesn't appear to ward off colds. A new study from New Zealand, from somewhere in New Zealand, apparently. I apparently deleted something important in this sentence. In the study, participants who took high doses of vitamin D supplements every month for more than a year were just as likely to get a cold as those who took the placebo. So they're saying, it's good for you, it just ain't that good for you. Scientists have created a genetically modified cow that produces milk with low levels of protein known to cause allergic reactions in a significant proportion of children.
Oh,
So if
I
you
was
got
going
a
to say,
kid,
why would you want low protein? Wouldn't you want more protein?
they're
I
saying
suppose
there are
if
kids
it's
that have
allergies.
issues.
Okay.
Researchers believe that it could one day lead to the sale of hypoallergenic milk from herds of genetically modified cows. Now, if they can only somehow add the chocolate before they milk the cow and have, genetically modified chocolate milk, now you're onto something.
That would be utterly delicious.
It would be. That was a John joke right there.
It was.
I saw you roll your eyes at yourself. That was fun. The first large study to examine the use of X-rays, CT scans, and other medical radiation in children estimates the average child will get more than 7 radiation scans by the age of 18. Really? Not ours. A potentially worrisome trend. Most of the scans involve X-rays, which use relatively little radiation. But there's growing concern about CT scans, which entail far more radiation and can raise risk of cancer, particularly in children. The study found that X-rays of the chest and hand and feet are the most common. So that's probably if they break a leg or something.
Ours have not had. Taylor has had 2 X-rays.
Yeah.
But I don't think Troy's ever had any.
Me neither. We're going to have to break a bone or something and send him in to get something. All right, we're going to end with our strange law. A Texas law requires that a criminal give the expected victim a 24-hour notice stating the crime to be committed in writing or orally. Didn't we already talk about this?
Yeah, that one we did do.
Wow, what in the world? How did I get 2 of those?
I don't know.
Apparently, I need to fire my writing staff like I have one. This has been your Scoop of the Day. Sadly, I hate to mention that it's brought to you by somebody because it was kind of awful today, but it is brought to you by the Dollar Shave Club. I promise I'll do better tomorrow. If you'd like to get your razors for just $1, they'll send them right to your door for $2 more. It's $3 a month, and you'll be in awesome razors. Go to dollarshaveclub.com/radio.
This portion of the program is brought to you by Dollar Shave Club. You can get razors sent to your door each month for just $1, plus a couple of bucks shipping. It's an amazing deal. Log on to dollarshaveclub.com/radio to learn more. That's dollarshaveclub.com/radio. Now, back to the John and Heidi Show podcast.
I got a fun guest that I'm going to be visiting with today. About 10 years ago, there was a guy in the news. You may remember a gentleman was caught stealing maps. And the interesting thing about this is he was not just a regular guy. This was a guy that was an esteemed and very well-respected map dealer. He'd been that for years, and he got caught stealing maps. And we've got a guest today, Michael Blanding. He actually wrote a book about the whole incident. The book is called The Map Thief, and it is available right now, so we're going to tell you how to get the book. But first, let's say good morning to Michael Blanding. Thanks for joining us. How are you this morning?
Good morning. I'm great. How are you doing?
Very good. So your paperback just became available yesterday of The Map Thief. Now, this is a really interesting story because, you would never expect this map dealer to be doing this. And first of all, how did he get caught? What did he do to finally get caught and have people find out?
Yeah, so there was a afternoon of June 2005 when a librarian was walking through the rare book room at the Yale University Library, at the Beinecke Library at Yale, and happened to spy an X-Acto knife blade on the floor. And when they started doing research and figuring out who was in the room, they very quickly centered on this rare map dealer named E. Forbes Smiley III. And they searched him, and they found that he had about half a dozen maps on him that had been taken from the library, so that was the beginning of the unraveling of this story.
Wow. And this guy, was very esteemed from the sounds of it, so very respected, and then they found out that, wow, you've been placing your trust in the wrong guy.
Yeah, exactly. He had been a legitimate map dealer for several decades, and many of the librarians that he knew from going into libraries and researching maps, they really treated him almost like a colleague, and they would give him access to materials and not be especially attentive when he was looking at them, and come to find out that he was sort of secretly ripping maps out of books and stealing them out of folders and putting them in his pocket and walking right out. And some of them were just devastated. We felt really completely betrayed after the news of this had come out, and some of them still haven't gotten over it.
And when you think about it, that as far as the crime, again, you would never expect a guy that's in there doing the research and doing this to be stealing these. Who would he be selling them to then? Who was actually buying these maps?
Well, the interesting thing about the map trade is that unlike, say, fine art, where there's one copy of a painting and it's on the wall of a museum, and if it's missing, then everybody knows it's been stolen. With a rare map, there may be a dozen copies of a particular map, and most of them are in libraries, but there's always a chance that another one could be found in a private collection or, somebody's attic somewhere. And so he was able to take these things and sell them mostly to dealers that he'd been dealing with for decades and who trusted him. And he would just say, this came from a collection that I'm selling off, and they would buy and sell it in broad daylight, and someone would hang it on the wall and show it off to other people, and no one had any idea that these things were stolen. So it really just goes to show you in some ways how easy the crime was for him.
Again, visiting this morning with Michael Blanding, the author of the book, The Map Thief. Now, Michael, let's talk about how you got involved in this story, because you were kind of the guy that was reporting this when it came out. And how in the world did you build trust with the gentleman and get the story from him?
Well, it was really just a matter of being in the right place at the right time. I'd never really forgotten the story when I first heard about it in 2005 when he was caught. And it always kind of stuck with me as a map lover and as a journalist. And when I heard that he was out of prison in 2011, I contacted him thinking I was going to write a magazine article about the case. And for whatever reason, he agreed to talk to me. He'd never spoken to a journalist before, and he agreed to sit down and talk with me. And I talked with him for about 4 hours, and by the end of that time, I was just convinced that this is not a magazine article, this is a book. It was just so fascinating. There were so many kind of crazy twists and turns in his story. He was such a unique character that I just really knew I had the material for something great on my hands.
So now, what does he think of the book? Have you guys had a chance to talk about that at all?
We haven't actually, because as I explain in the book, really early on in the reporting process, he stopped talking to me for reasons that I'm still not quite sure on why that's the case. Whether he was afraid he was going to say too much, or whether people around him counseled him against talking to me. But originally when that happened, I was really devastated by it. I thought that I was not going to be able to tell the story in the way that I wanted to, but it turned out to be, in some ways, a blessing in disguise. I ended up talking with a lot more people, law enforcement, librarians, other map dealers, and ended up creating a much richer and much more detailed portrait than I would have otherwise. So in some ways, I have to thank him for not talking to me, even though it didn't feel like that at the time.
Now, this, again, happened about 10 years ago, and I remember when this was in the news, and I kind of forgot about it, but I'm really glad that the book is out, because I'm fascinated to read this. I've got a copy of it here. We're going to give it away eventually, but I'm going to read it first. So.
Okay, well, I hope you like it.
And again, the book is called The Map Thief by Michael Blanding. And Michael, where can folks buy this book if they're wanting to get a copy of it?
They can go to my website. It's just themapthief.com, and they can order a copy there.
Very, very nice. And the paperback version came out yesterday, so perfect timing. And I wanted to chat with you yesterday. We just couldn't make that work, but I'm really glad that you took some time to visit with me today. Do you have other books that are available as well, Michael?
I have one other book. It's called The Coke Machine, and the subtitle is The Dirty Truth About the World's Favorite Soft Drink. It's an expose of the Coca-Cola Company. So
nice.
An investigative project, but a different sort of investigative story.
And now, how different was that than when you were putting together The Map Thief? I'm assuming probably night and day difference.
Yeah, very different. That was a very sprawling, very complicated business and reporting book, spanning hundreds of years. This was a much more tightly focused narrative on one particular crime case. And, of course, I also included the background of the history of the maps because I'm really intrigued by history, but it was a very different kind of writing. And I have to say this one was a lot more fun.
So what do you have? Do you have anything in the works right now that we can talk about, or is it not a little too early to talk about the next thing?
Still looking for that next big book project. This one I spent 3 years on, so it's got to be something that I really have the passion for to really spend some time with. But I'm still looking for that great story. If any of your readers have any ideas, they can find my email on my website. Very
cool. And again, the website is themappthief.com. Michael Blanding is the author of the book, The Map Thief. Michael, thank you so much for taking time to chat with us.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
And thank you for listening to the John and Heidi Show on a Wednesday.
This portion of the program is brought to you by RVRealtor.com. If you're selling an RV, check out RVRealtor.com. They only get paid if they help you sell your RV. If you're buying an RV, you can find great deals at RVRealtor.com. Now, back to the John and Heidi Show podcast.
Today is a very special day, Heidi. You know what today is?
What is today,
You're not going to believe it, but today is Wednesday. It's June the 3rd, and it is Chimborazo Day. I knew you'd be excited.
I don't know what that is.
I don't either. I thought you might.
Okay.
So what the heck does Chimborazo mean?
I don't know.
Whatever it is, it's today. Today's the day for Chimborazo.
Okay.
We should probably Google that to see. Maybe it's something we shouldn't be talking about on the radio. It's also National Running Day, so today's to be a great day to leave the car at home and run to work. It's what I did this morning. Then again, I live here. That helps. It's also National Tailor's Day. Tailors. Tailors, like people who sew clothing. We have a daughter named Taylor, and I'm going to tell her it's her day today, too. So there you go. This has been your special day, Wednesday, the 3rd day of June. Coming up, we're going to talk about the most awesome story I've had in a long, long time. It is just, I think it's really cool. This should be turned into a movie.
Okay.
And who knows, it just might be.
Well, good. I'm
That's
excited.
on the way. Thanks for listening on a Wednesday.
Hi, it's Jewel and Kelly Pickler. Lung cancer is the #1 cancer killer of women. So we've joined the American Lung Association's Lung Force because it's going to take a force of women to create new hope. Please join us. Fight lung cancer in women at lungforce.org.
You're listening to the John and Heidi Show podcast.
Heidi, I think this could actually be turned into a movie. Ian Johnstone missed his girlfriend so much that he jumped on an airplane and he flew back to Britain from Australia. He wanted to go there to propose to her. So he got there, and guess what?
What?
She wasn't there. You know where she was?
She went to see him.
She did.
Oh,
Sounds like something out of a commercial for the airlines, but this time it really happened. A boyfriend decided to surprise his girlfriend by flying to see her in a different country. She was doing the same exact thing at the same exact time. He flew from Australia to Britain, but she flew from Britain to Australia. Oops. Stranger still, Ian and Amy even managed to miss each other when they sat in the same airport lounge while waiting for each other in Singapore.
Oh my gosh.
At the same time, waiting for connecting flights. Once they both figured out what happened, Ian called Amy, which happens to be, she was at his apartment crying her eyes out. She was wondering where he was. So he got a hold of her, and she did say that she would marry him. He called and said, "Hey, will you marry me?" Yeah. According to her, she didn't know whether to laugh or cry, but she did accept it. In the meantime, Amy was given a tour of Sydney by Ian's friends before going home. Ian, however, had to stay in Britain for 2 weeks because he couldn't get a change on his ticket. They're like, "Hey, I'm sorry. You already bought the ticket. You're staying here for 2 weeks."
Well, why didn't she just go back?
She did, but
okay.
She couldn't go back right away. They showed her around, and then she went home. Oh, doesn't that sound like an idea for a movie?
That is so sweet.
But doesn't it sound like an idea
That's
for
like
a movie?
The gift of the Magi.
It is similar, yeah.
That's cool.
Except for nobody had to get their hair cut.
Right.
So, but it was just really cool. And I think that would be a cool idea for a movie. Would you?
Would. That's
there,
adorable.
you finally said it would. You were dodging that the whole time.
And he's got good friends to haul
That's
her
neat.
around and show her.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Very, very cool.
That's
Coming up,
awesome.
we're going to talk about Father's Day. That is on the way, so stick around. It's all on the way next.
This is John Stossel. Anything that makes it harder for you to speak limits your life. So if you or someone you know stutters, you can call the Stuttering Foundation for help. 800-992-9392.
You're listening to the John and Heidi Show podcast.
Father's Day is sneaking up here in just a short while. It's on the 14th. No, is it on the 14th? When is it? No, it's not. It's on the 21st. Flag Day is on the 14th. I
can see how you get those mixed up.
Well, on my calendar, I saw something was going on there. But for those of you who are thinking about maybe getting something, it turns out there's a big disconnect between what women think men want for Father's Day and what those men actually want for Father's Day. Would it be helpful if we shared this?
Sure.
A survey found 60% of women think their man would love a ticket to a sporting event. Do you think I would like that?
Not even a little bit, no.
Only 36% of men said that would be their top choice. Women also thought their man would love a power tool. How about that? You think I'd like one of those?
No.
Depends on what it is. There's some that I'd kind of like. Maybe not. So what do men really want? Here it is. Number one on the list.
Neckties.
No. No. Number one on the list when asked what would you really like for Father's Day, they said, I'd really kind of like to get a new phone, a new smartphone.
Oh.
Or maybe a tablet. So a smartphone or tablet was number one, followed by a good home-cooked meal.
Oh.
I get that every day. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I am such a lucky man. The majority of men ranked those two as their top choices. So ladies, if you're trying to figure out what to get that dude in your life for Father's Day here in a couple weeks, keep those things in mind. And if you need some ties, I got a whole closet full of them. I made this decision that I'm not wearing ties anymore. So look at me. How many ties am I wearing right now?
Not a single one.
There you go. Exactly. Which, if the answer would have been anything more than one, it would have been weird too. All right, coming up, we got an interesting story from the police in Scotland. It's all on the way. Thanks for listening on a Wednesday.
This portion of the program is brought to you by RVRealtor.com. If you're selling an RV, check out RVRealtor.com. They only get paid if they help you sell your RV. If you're buying an RV, you can find great deals at RVRealtor.com. Now, back to the John and Heidi Show podcast.
With police in hot pursuit, armed Scottish robber Derek McFadden raced away from a bank near Glasgow, Scotland with $4,000. Then he made a law-abiding mistake. He stopped for a red light, and then he was arrested
what
immediately.
an idiot.
So he was on his way away from a bank robbery. Oh no, the light turned red. I don't want to break any laws.
I don't want to break the law. That would be...
I'm not saying that, that he shouldn't have stopped for the red light, because I'm saying he shouldn't have robbed the bank, period.
Well, of course.
But if you're going to rob a bank, why would you obey a stoplight? That just doesn't make sense.
Wow. He clearly was not thinking.
All right. Coming up here in a bit, we're going to talk about a fun thing. Mothers, fathers, if you're listening, stick around. We got a good story for you coming up in a bit.
This portion of the program is brought to you by Dollar Shave Club. You can get razors sent to your door each month for just $1, plus a couple of bucks shipping. It's an amazing deal. Log on to dollarshaveclub.com/radio to learn more. That's dollarshaveclub.com/radio. Now, back to the John and Heidi Show podcast.
Mothers and fathers can have a profound effect on civil society by helping to mold the next generation, Heidi. Did you know this?
Yeah, of
Into
course.
healthy, well-adjusted adults. Mothers' involvement has been shown to influence a broad range of outcomes for adolescents. For example, Heidi, pay attention to this. You're a mother. Teens whose parents are present when they wake up and when they come home from school and when they go to bed, they're less likely to experience emotional distress. And those whose parents are more involved in their lives tend to have higher levels of self-esteem and self-control. Teens with greater parental involvement in their schooling are more likely to graduate from high school and achieve higher levels of education. And finally, mothers' investment in and communication with their children has been shown to have a significant impact regarding risky behaviors, from sexual behavior to substance abuse.
I would agree with
saying
that.
Mothers matter.
Yeah, absolutely.
I noticed they say in the headline,
It
mothers...
is the most important job in the world.
It is.
Yeah.
But I noticed that in the headline it said mothers and fathers, but all the way through the story it didn't mention fathers anywhere. Did you notice that?
Did you cut all that out of the story?
No, I
Was that a
copied and
whole
pasted the
separate
whole
paragraph?
darn thing. No, I think I copied the whole darn thing. I have this, I'm weird. I like to keep everything on one page, so I edit things. I chop out stuff that's not necessarily important. sometimes I hit things that are important.
Fathers are extremely, extremely important. Too.
I agree, 100%. And I'll tell you, it's funny because we have a daughter that's 13. She's going to be 14 soon.
Yes.
And I know she loves it when I give her hugs, but she acts like she doesn't love it when I give her hugs.
Right.
But when I give her hugs, I can tell she does love it. I can tell. She really does. Because if I give our son a hug and I don't give her a hug, she's like, oh, what? I don't get a hug? I'm like, no, I thought you didn't like hugs anymore. So I think it's important stuff. Coming up, we're going to talk about house for sale. Kind of, sort of. Well, not really. But it's funny. It's on the way.
Hi, it's Jewel and Kelly Pickler. Lung cancer is the #1 cancer killer of women. So we've joined the American Lung Association's Lung Force because it's going to take a force of women to create new hope. Please join us. Fight lung cancer in women at lungforce.org.
You're listening to the John and Heidi Show podcast.
Almost time to say goodbye. Let's talk about this little prank that got somebody in a little bit of trouble. A classified advertisement that ran in the St. Louis Post-Dispatch offered what seemed like a bargain on a house in a wealthy St. Louis suburb neighborhood. The ad read, "For sale by owner, 1201 South Warson Road. Open house, May 24th. Lavish two-story residence, all brick, renovated bathroom, theater entertainment room, finished basement, intercom system, tennis courts, and indoor pool. $550,000.
Whoa.
The great deal turned out to be a high school senior's prank. The house that was for sale was the Ladue Horton Watkins High School.
Oh.
The open house date? Well, that was the last day of classes for seniors. Brad Heeger, assistant principal at the school, found that the ad was out there when he was bombarded by dozens of calls from prospective buyers.
Oh, funny.
He took the prank in stride. He said, I'm not going to punish the student responsible for the ad. He said, it's one of the better senior pranks I've actually seen. His only problem was that the house was way underpriced. It's like they should have put a better price on there.
That's really cool of the principal to say,
Yeah.
I'm not punishing them.
He's like, you know what? This is actually pretty good.
Yeah.
I remember when I was in school, there were some kids that went around, and I think it was on homecoming week. I don't think it had anything to do with the end of school, but they took like every realtor sign they could find in the town that I lived in. They pulled every realtor sign out of the ground, and they put them all in front of the high school.
Oh, funny.
So you pulled into school on a Monday morning, and there was there were signs like the entire whole front yard, and they were not happy about that because somebody had to come and pick up all the signs.
Yeah.
All right, time to say goodbye, Heidi.
Goodbye, Heidi.
Goodbye, everybody. Have a great day. We'll talk to you again tomorrow morning, bright and early, with another episode of the John and Heidi Show. And for those of you who are trying to have a baby, we're going to chat about some things you might want to do coming up in our bonus break. And if you've never heard of the bonus break, that's because you've never heard of the John and Heidi Show podcast. Oh, yes. All this delicious goodness that happens right here on the radio. I mean, this witty, awesome commentary. If you miss something, you can hear the John and Heidi Show podcast on Spreaker.com. I still have no clue if I'm saying that right.
I'm sure it's right.
Spreaker.com, Spreaker.com. It's somewhere on the internet. And just look for the John and Heidi Show podcast. I'm sure there's only one. Thank you so much for listening on a Wednesday.
Time now for the bonus break. Only available here on the John and Heidi Show podcast.
All right, bonus breakers. You ready for this?
I am ready.
It says if you're trying to have a baby, you're supposed to hold off on the alcohol. Is that why we're not having kids anymore? We're done.
We are done.
Even if you're not sure if you're pregnant yet, according to the Huffington Post, they say research on mice suggests that a mother's drinking, even in the first 3 weeks of pregnancy, could create changes in the genes and the embryo that could cause permanent damage.
Well, duh.
In the light of the findings, researchers suggest that women would be wise to cut off the drinking and avoid alcohol altogether as soon as they make the decision to try to get pregnant. So that makes sense.
Oh, yeah.
What else do I have here? A woman from Indiana found herself in need of medical prescription, but no money to buy it. So she and her boyfriend decided to rob a grocery store right next to the pharmacy. Then they walked right next door to the pharmacy and gave her real name and address and telephone number to purchase the prescription. With this, really valuable information, the police were not really struggling too hard to find them.
Jeez.
She obviously ran out of her thinking pills before pulling that
Wow.
stunt. That's nuts. And I have for you, do you have a joke for us or anything, Heidi?
I don't.
Okay, well then I have for you the biggest pet peeve in the workplace. Recent survey reveals that 36% of U.S. bosses have issued formal warnings for swearing.
Really?
Yeah, that's the biggest pet peeve. 6% have fired an employee for it. The poll also found that 81% of senior executives found foul-mouthed colleagues unacceptable to work alongside in the office. The poll also found that 98.7% believe that the idea of office etiquette does exist, and the majority, 69.7%, said that they would fire an employee for bad office manners. Of managers who have terminated employees for office etiquette offenses, the top 5 most common causes were, number 1, bad language. Number 2, excessive gossip in the workplace. You know who's really good at gossiping? Let me just tell you all about this. Just kidding. I guess that would be me then, wouldn't it? Number 3, drinking on the job. Wouldn't that be?
That should be number 1.
I think so. Number 4, leaving the office without telling anybody. Just up and leaving. Doesn't that mean they quit? And number 5 on the list, too many personal calls. So that kind of sounds like your entire day right there, doesn't it?
A little bit.
She's on the phone with personal calls, gossiping about drinking and using bad language. I'm like, wow, Heidi, you're in trouble. All right, when it comes to dealing with bad behavior in the cubicle next door, coworkers had a slightly higher threshold for bad language. 81.2% said they deemed swearing in the workplace unacceptable. The absolute most offensive thing an office worker can do to his or her colleagues is steal their food from the fridge. That's the number one thing for them. When
steal my food from the fridge all the time.
When they ask what bothers you about coworkers, they say, number 1, eating my food, 97.8%.
Wow.
So there's 2.2% that are okay with it. You find those 2.2%, you got it made.
You got free lunch.
There you go. Number 2 on the list, bad hygiene. I used to work with a guy.
Oh, that's awful.
I worked with a guy that had bad hygiene and nobody would talk to him about it.
Yeah, that's awful.
And finally, everybody nominated me to be the one to talk to him about it. I'm like, why me? Well, he likes you. I'm like, yeah, because I haven't told him he stinks yet. I don't want to be the one. I had to. It was terrible. Number 3 on the list, bad habits. You know, like clipping your fingernails at work or whatever.
Yeah.
Number 4. So number 4 on the list for people, what they don't like about other coworkers is drinking on the job. It was number 3 for the boss. It's number 4 for coworkers. And number 5 on the list, wastefulness with paper. So why do coworkers...
That drives you crazy.
Coworkers care more about it than bosses do, because it wasn't even in the top 5 for them.
Yeah.
But they don't like... Yeah, look at me. I have paper laying all over the place right now, but I do. I conserve paper. Other things that pop up are leaving smelly food or cooking smelly food in the microwave.
Yeah.
Sneaking peeks at the BlackBerry in meetings. That's another one they don't like. So little things like that.
Yeah. Huh.
Doodling all over the meeting notes and not paying attention to what's going on. Oh, wait, this is what you do. No, that's not on the list. There's only one person that does that. All right. Thank you so much for listening to our bonus break. And for those of you who do listen to this program, thank you for doing that. It's been really cool to see the numbers go up and up and up. Do me a favor. If you like what you're hearing on here, share it with a friend. Let them know. Say, hey, this is something I've been listening to. Why? I don't know. Apparently I'm bored. Because here's the funny thing. I clicked on and started listening to other podcasts.
Podcasts are pretty boring.
I fell asleep. Seriously, I did that. I Googled most popular podcasts because I'm like, I really don't know what we're doing here. We've been doing this radio thing for a long time. We kind of got that figured out. But when it comes to a podcast, what do you do, right?
Right.
So I Googled, what do you do for a podcast after doing this for a month? And I found a bunch of them to listen to. The majority of them, when I turned it on, it was filled with vulgarity. And I was like, that I'm not going to do. And then the other ones, they had people that were talking, and it was so boring and monotone and mundane. It sounded like public radio. Like there was one, hi, I'm here for the podcast, and here's what we're going to talk about today. And thank you so much for listening. This program is brought to you by Valium, because you're going to need some Valium
Brought to you by
to continue to listen to this. Also brought to you by Black Coffee, because without black coffee, you're not going to make it through either. It was terrible. I mean, I don't know. Maybe that's what people are looking for. You have to let us know. What are we doing right? What are we doing wrong? I have no clue. But thank you so much for listening.